So today's let's build a network. And you'll see in here, let's build a network is actually a discussion. You see that? It's a discussion topic. So this is so you guys can go in there and talk and do stuff. If it doesn't work, let me know if it doesn't work. And we'll post some stuff in there. Or we might find something else to use for communication. But let's build a network is going to be about you guys working together. Your biggest problem is going to be communication. If people aren't talking, if people aren't communicating, if people aren't saying, hey, I'm working on this, you don't need to work on this, people are going to do duplicate jobs. They're going to try to do exactly everything that we did here. And you guys are building a network together. You're not on your own program. You're not building one just for you. So if you have like a domain controller for every person, you have DHCP for every person, that's going to cause problems, right? So you're going to have to plan this out and figure out where can I run in the problems, what's going to happen. I like to use flowcharts. So there's an free online program I like to use called Lucid Charts. I'm going to pull it up really quick. So this is Lucid Charts right here. And this is something I drew up for a previous class. So I'm just going to make this full screen. I'm going to F11 it. So what's cool about Lucid Charts is if you want to do a presentation, we can click on presentation right here and it'll let us do one. When you click down, it lets us do add slides. Add slides are kind of cool. So it's going to take this little frame right here and it's going to zoom in on here. So let's see something. I'm just going to do it really quick. You guys can use this to diagram how you want to do stuff. And I'll show you really quick on mine how to do it. Add a new slide. So say I'm talking about something. I can change this. And again, this is how we're thinking like about the physical, well, the logical of a network. Physical could be completely different because this could all live on a virtual machine like we've been doing. So we have to think about, all right, how would we accomplish this before I start throwing it together? Because you guys have done everything in VMware, but we need to think about, okay, in a real environment, how am I going to do this stuff? I'm going to put this like that. It's like, what's he doing? He's just randomly clicking on stuff. I'm clicking on stuff. I want to see how you guys can do a demo with this. And you can even use this as with your resume. You can make a Lucid chart like this, put a link to it and say, hey, here's how I plan out my network deployments when I'm going to build a network. I pre-plan stuff. I do it. They like to see that you're organized when you're looking for jobs and how you would do stuff and how you would present it. Anything that makes you stand out to the other person's resume who looks exactly like yours keeps yours from going into the circle file cabinet, right? Any of you who've owned your own business or stuff, you also, think about what you'd be looking for if you were hiring someone. If you're looking for someone who takes the extra step that shows a little bit extra, you probably want to hire them and not the person who did the least amount of work on the resume, right? Yeah. So I have Visio also, which is what I usually use, but Visio is not free for you guys. This one has a free mode. And what's cool is you can interact with me with it. I can give you the link to this and you guys can look at this as I'm doing stuff in it and you can all work together as one team in this together. So one person could be building one thing, another one could be another. So I'll give you guys access to this in a second. So that makes it just really cool to work together. Now, if you pay for the extra features, it also has chat and stuff and everything. I'm paying for it because I can import my Visio into here. And I really enjoy just moving stuff, dragging around like, oh, I forgot about that. And this also gives me like a network plan, a network diagram later. So I used this for work because I wanted to see the classroom. They gave me a blueprint of what they were doing to Cybertext and Colleen. And I took that and I converted it in Visio and like pretty much like AutoCAD and put everything to what the square footage that they said in the blueprint. And it didn't line up with what the blueprint they had, but mine was exactly what it said for square footage inside. And then I was able to move around and see, all right, here's where I'd want to run my network cables. Here's where I'd want to run 10 gig lines. And it just made it easier for me to visualize it in my head and show someone what I was visualizing. Because sometimes you're visualizing in your head, and other people are like, "What the hell are you talking about?" So, on presentations on this, I can start off like this, like, "Hey, we have the main site that we need to be able to network for. So we definitely need to think about the router and the VPN gateway. The VPN we need to set up with public IP addresses and everything, so you guys can get to it. From there, we have the regular gateway, but we can go over to our domains and stuff, so you can see how we can move around and talk about stuff. The firewall can cause a problem, and we need the firewalls to have communication with our other site. So we need to make sure that our ports are open and that we can communicate because we have two locations. So that's what the VPN and the firewall, the VPN and the VPN gateway needs to get through that firewall so that site A and site B can communicate. So you see how this can come in pretty handy for moving around, right? So once you're past the router, now you expand a network with a switch. So I have a switch in there. If we're doing this in a virtual machine, we think of that's our virtual switch, right? And everybody's connected to it. We're going down to how would we set up our domain controllers and everything that works. We know for every domain, we need 2 domain controllers. So what this is showing right here is this is a domain controller. This is a domain controller. They both have DNS on them. So we know when you install a domain controller, it does your Active Directory domain services and a DNS automatically. So that's what this is representing right here is your 2 domain controllers. We also did DHCP with WDS. Now, if we want that to handle NAT, that would be a good machine to put NAT on. Again, this is just an example. It's not exactly what you have to do. I'm just showing this is what a way I would think about this for a certain location is putting DHCP WDS in NAT, which you guys, I haven't shown you how to do it, but you guys can look it up and try to figure that one out. That's one of those little, you know how I like to throw in Google it and see if you can figure it? That's going to be one of those that you can try in there. So we're going to want all this stuff on a private network. For that to be able to do that, we know that the DHCP, WDS, and NAT, if we're doing NAT, it needs an external network card, right? So it's going to need one private network card and a switch. I'm saying network card, but you know what I mean, like a private switch and an external switch, which will equal a private network card and an external network card for that machine. And what that would do is that would route your internet to anyone who is connecting to that DHCP into our network. I also put Wasus on its own server because you guys are going to have full access to the VMware server. We're going to be able to wipe the entire server, and you guys have access to do this however you guys wish to do it. If you want to do it in Hyper-Vs in a computer, if you want to do each one as its own machine on VMware, you guys have the options to do that, or to do hybrid and mix them all up. They should still work. Yeah, so if you have NAT on it and it's handing stuff out, it's going to be able to route everything. So you'll also set up that server. Whichever server has NAT on it, you're going to point that server as your gateway in your DHCP. So you'll put the IP address of whichever server has NAT on it, and that'll be your gateway, and that's what's going to let you get internet in and out of your network there. It's under remote connections and VPN and stuff. So it's pretty easy to set up, but it'll be one of those things. You Google it, how to set up NAT in Server 2019, and you'll have plenty of tutorials to figure that out. And if you guys are all like, if people are just sitting around doing nothing, like when you're first getting started, share what you're doing in front of them. Share your screen in Zoom. Say, hey, here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm trying. Remember, once you have an Active Directory domain services, everyone can do a job with Server Manager. All they have to do is join the domain with their computer, with their workstation computer, add the RSAT, the remote management tools, and they can start working on organizational units. They can start working on making users. They can start breaking up stuff for different classrooms, installing policies and stuff. So it's going to be, all right, figure out who's doing what, communicate, and keep that communication going. I know this isn't, the communication has absolutely nothing to do with your certification, but it is going to help you get a job because you're going to learn, how am I going to explain this to someone else? How are they going to explain it to me? And I need to understand it. If you can't explain stuff or teach each other how to do stuff or work together, it's going to be hard. You don't want to be that deer in headlights when you go in the field and they tell you to do something like, I don't know, can you show me? It's like, I thought you knew how to do this. You're certified. So I try to make this a real world experience. You guys have free reigns to do whatever you want. I'm just giving you, I'm the customer. I'm like, hey, I want this. Now, as the customer, I'm going to be a jerk. I'm like, okay, I changed my mind on something. Can you do this too? So if we have time and you guys are doing awesome, I might throw that in there because it happens, right? But this is meant to be fun. This is meant to be Legos. Now you'll see up here, I have 10 gig. So what this means is I'm trying to do a 10 gig backbone on my servers. Now this isn't something that you can designate when you're in VMware, but what you can do is give your servers a dedicated switch for your servers to talk to each other, and then a dedicated one for them to connect to the switch with all your client computers and your printers are on. This way, if one goes down, your servers are still talking to each other and they still have access to the internet. We're trying not to have single points of failure. So redundancy is definitely what we want. So if these computers are all sharing a NAS or a backup server or something, we don't want workstations to be clogging up that network, right? We want them to work as fast as possible and talk with each other as quick as possible without bottlenecking. So I always try to give the servers their own network where they talk to each other, and then a separate network where they're talking and providing services to the workstations and to everyone else. Because everyone else is going to have 1 gig cards, right? And our servers can have 10 gigs, we can have fiber optic, whatever we want there. In the best scenario, that's what I want. So I represented those 10 gigs with these filled in blocks, and empty ones for me represent 1 gig network connections. So just think of this as like your RJ45s. So we would connect those to a switch. Now there's switches. A lot of switches will have like 2 or 3 10 gig connections. So my servers that I have here have 2 10 gig ports and 2 1 gig ports. So that's kind of how I'm representing them, is they're talking to each other with their 10 gig ports. You can daisy chain them directly to each other. And then the secondary one, I was connecting to the switch. So this is just representing that these are connected to this switch here with their 10 gig lines. And then the switch's 1 gig lines are connecting to the rest. So I think I'm done in there. So let me just come over here. So I will zoom in now. So the switch, this is just representing right here, 10 gig connection. And I just wrote 10 gigs at the ends of these in case we're like, what's this? I'll be like, oh, this is a 10 gig backbone. And this is a 10 gig backbone. It's not going to look like this. These ports are actually going to be connected to the switch, right? It's just a representation. Then over here, we have Windows Server VM Multi. So what that means is that that's a virtual machine. That's what you guys are doing right now. You guys are connecting through the internet, and you guys actually are bypassing a lot of this stuff right here. You guys are going straight to this. So my gateway, which would be out here, is doing IP pass through. And the IP pass through is just pointing directly to the server you guys are connecting to. So that has a public IP address. So is it secure? No. But is there anything that I'm afraid to lose on it? No. I mean, it is Linux, so it's more secure than if I was doing that with Windows. But it's VMware ESXi 7.1U or whatever they're calling it now. So that's what we're using. So this is kind of a hybrid where these could be physical machines. This is a virtual machine. And then we could represent having all kinds of stuff on here. We can even have all these workstations in a virtual machine too. All these could be thin clients, and all of their stuff could be hosted in VDI on that virtual machine, right? So there's so many different ways we can accomplish the same tasks where it would look the same. It's like, when, where, and how does this live? So now that I've probably confused the hell out of you guys, let's just draw something up simple. Let's do a new one. And let me just show you something else really quick so I can just go off subject. So you can see right here, it says Visio, Glyphy, Draw IO. These are all different things that let you can import these from different things. That's why I like using this, because it's free. I pay for it so that I can let you guys hop in here and do stuff with what I'm drawing. So let me go, yeah, back to documents right here. And this works with O365 and with Google Drive. So if you want to save the stuff on Google Drive, it's good to go. So there's that one that I was telling you about. I drew up the classroom. So this is actually cybertext, right? So this is where we would be in the classroom. My classroom used to be right here. Before COVID, this was my classroom. I had a door over here, and this was the break room. Now the break room's over here. They turned my classroom into offices for some stupid reason and put me into this room right here. So you guys have walked. You guys probably walked in here and stuff, and you saw stuff because you're doing some stuff with Richard. Richard's room is now right here. You guys were probably over here where it says IT lab. Yvonne's room is right here, phase 3. And I was drawing up our 4 servers, our switches, our modems. Like, hey, we put them all in this room right here. And I was putting, okay, I would like them. I like my switch here, the other switch here, and this switch here because that makes it easier to drop your lines. Uh, in my classrooms, the desks would be going off the wall from here, and there's a stupid window here and stuff. I hate windows in my rooms. I hate people looking in my rooms. So this was what I was drawing up for there. And then they actually asked me, can they have a copy of this? Because the VA was asking for a floor plan. And I'm like, well, can you pay me for it? This wasn't easy. It really wasn't easy. So all right, what's that question meaning? Like right now? So you said so the main site would be one of our host stations or your server. Can you break that down a little bit? What you're trying to ask there? The main site would be where you have your Fismo role, your main DH. My mind is going cuckoo. Your main active directory. So the first active directory you create is your master Fismo roles. So if that one goes down, everything else turns into a read only. If that one goes down, so one of the things you're gonna have to learn in the future is how to seize Fismo roles if something extraordinary takes out your main active directory. Your DC1 is what I'm calling it, and that'll take everything down. So our main site's going to be the site where we have most of our IT staff and everything. In our case, this would be our main site if we were talking about cybertex. And there's actually a line running across the parking lot about right here at cybertex, going to the other building for the admin network, which would be so easy just to cut that, put an end on it, and then plug your laptop into it. So it used to be in the sky, but a dump truck ripped it out of the sky. So it was ran up high and across, and the dump truck had their things up in the air and ripped it right out. And then for a week, I was running the internet through my cell phone for our whole building. I cheated and I used one of those range extenders, which had a hardwire on it, and I connected my cell phone to that Wi-Fi, and then ran the hardwire of that to our switch, and then switched everyone to the gateway of my cell phone. And I had the whole building running internet off of my cell phone, just so we could still do our work. Sometimes you just got to MacGyver stuff and make it work, right? I don't do it for the school because they never said thank you. Well, the SpaceX Starlink isn't a cloud; it's a mesh. So it's just another. It just go down as internet. So it's internet access or a gateway is what that would be. So and it runs a lot. It runs a lot like mesh networks, like at home, where you put different devices everywhere and they run as a mesh, and it finds the shortest, quickest path between them all and repeats the signal across. That's how Starlink works. Is one satellite talks to the nearest satellite to wherever location you're trying to talk with, and it just daisy chains and drops your signal back to the ground wherever that is. So and you can only use it like if you're in certain regions and under certain satellites right now. I was looking at it. I wanted to get it. It's available here in Texas, but all their available spots have already been claimed. So they're not going to overwork their network as they're testing it right now. I'd love to have it. especially if it was for global. That I'd get rid of what I have, and that'd be what I have in my van or in my RV. Just remember with satellite, if you ever had satellite at home, you're gonna have the same problems. Only works good with ideal weather conditions. Yep. All right, so let me get off of this because I'm going cuckoo here. And let's apply this like we have our virtual machines. Blank document. And I am going to go with share. Let's change our name. So this is the cool part. And later, I can change what I'm giving you guys so you can edit stuff. So right now, I'm going to give you guys a view. And that link right there is going to let you actually pop in here, and you're going to actually be able to view this. I'm going to go done really quick. So the first phase of designing a network in your book, and probably in any of the books you've read so far, is plan deployment, right? Plan it. So we're going to talk about, we have one location. Let's see, what do we have here? Can Sean spell? Hey, office building, that works. Let's use, this one's cute. So all you do is drag these over. So we still have enterprise building. We'll just say main location, right? Main. Similar to what we just had here. So this is just a representation. This isn't, we're not going to draw in there. So let's talk about how stuff gets to our network first. What are things we need to think about before we're setting up servers and stuff? So the first thing that we know is important these days is internet, right? So we can represent our internet. We have many options here. I'm just going to grab this cloud one. Two-way internet. So internet is very important, right? So our internet's coming in now. It's not dependent. Our network can still run without internet, but if we're going to be running on other sites, I see Bailey in there. See his little cursor moving around. So see, it shows who's connected to here up here. If I pay more, we can talk, but we don't need that. We have Zoom, right? We have Zoom. We can talk on Zoom. So our internet coming in, we probably want to, put more information in there. So let me get out of that. I'm going to click on here. If I double click it, it should let me change that right there. And I'm just going to say ATT fiber. Now, if I had other stuff I wanted to put in here, since I'm planning this, I could probably type like, the public IP address, all the information I need in here. A cool thing on here is you can right click and you can also do comments, notes, and we can add actions where if you click on it, it'll go to a web page. So you could also link this to the AT&T account for managing this, and we could have all the account information in here to get into that account to manage it. We have layers. We can have it go to an email who's managing it. So that's a little bit more in depth, but we can assign someone, all right, your job is setting this up. Your job is setting this up. And then people can all work at the same time. Like, hey, I did this. When you set up your server, hey, we're going to use this IP address. We're going to use this schema. We're going to use class A, class B, class C. We're going to name, we're going to use like I did .10 for servers and .1. I'm talking about the third octet, 10.10.1, 10.10.10. I use those to break up who was what in here, right? So you might want to do that. So if you're looking on your network and all you see is IP addresses, we have a program called Advanced IP Scanner. And I know I'm going a little bit everywhere, but I want to show you why I do that. So if I open up this Advanced IP Scanner, which looks like this, and I run it, it's going to scan for everything on my network right now. And it might take it a little bit, but this will show me all the communication going across my network. I'd probably also have Wireshark going and catching stuff too for me. So this is going to scan every single IP range and say who's who, who's what, what's being shared, what resources there are. Now, if I see something's going wrong with something, it should be working. I can see it on here, and if I see it's like 10.10.1 and it says it's causing issues or there's the packets aren't right, I can know just by that IP address that it's a workstation. And if maybe I'll set it up where it's 10.5, it should say building 1, building 2, building 3, or maybe those IP addresses are assigned to specific rooms. So it'll make it easier for me as an administrator just by seeing the IP address to break down where that is and make it easier for me to find it. Because in corporate environments, we're talking about, multi floors, multi locations, and anything that helps you know like how quick you can find it is going to help you a lot. So this is going to run forever. I'm on Wi-Fi right now, so Wi-Fi is not the best thing to run for doing that. But advanced IP scanner, you can throw that into your toolbox. I like to put a USB drive together and put all my tools on there in case I'm traveling around. I have them on me. I don't have to download them every time I go somewhere. I also usually keep a live version of Linux on a USB too, so in case I need to recover something, plug in the computer, take a spare hard drive with me, transfer everything, and work on it. All right, so that's a little bit off subject. So first thing I'm thinking about is my internet. This is also we think about our gateway. So our internet, as it comes into our building, is going to be a modem, right? So we can just grab it just says external modem. Yeah, let's just throw that. That one's cute, right? We know we're doing fiber, but there's still a modem for them. They translate the fiber or convert the fiber over to. I'll put it underneath it. So they'll translate fiber over the RJ45 so that the rest of our computers can understand it, and then it'll go to a router where it'll manage everything else. So our main building, going internet, our modem. This is how we're getting our network. So again, we're thinking about OSI layers. So all of this is our physical layers right now, right? OSI layer 1, physical. Now we have the mysterious layer that I call layer 0, which I just say user error, right? So we have the fiber. The fiber is going to our modem. Our modem's giving our stuff. So usually after the modem, we have a router. So again, I'm just searching stuff up here and I'm just grabbing what I see. So these are your typical symbols for router right here. So your Cisco symbols right here. That's usually what represents a router. That's a wireless router. That's a regular router. Let's keep this secure, and we're just going to use a regular router for this. So I'm just trying to get this how water flows. Internet to modem to router. Now from router, we go to switch. So switches, that's an ATM switch. Then they actually have, 600-700 series gateway and all kinds of funny stuff. We're just going to keep our switches simple here. So let's find something simple. Layer 3 switch, layer 2 switch. We'll do a layer 2 switch. You see how the arrows are going every direction? So that means we expand the network. So really the router feature on your router is the hardware and where it's sending stuff. Technically, where you're plugging in your RJ45s, that's the switch part of the router. So to expand that, we just need to run one cable to a switch, and now we've expanded the capacity of that router. That's pretty much what we're doing here. So now that we've got our internet coming in through our modem, right? AT&T fiber to our modem, to our router, to our switch, which is expanding our network. To secure this, at this point, this is probably where we have our servers. This is where we have our DMZ. Because the stuff, we probably have a firewall here too. Now, our DMZ, if we actually have a website, would be in between right here. It would be in between that router and this modem. Because it's out there in the open, it can get hit by everything, right? So, and in order for people to hit our company website or our IIS, it would have to be where they can actually get to it. So that would be in between here. And you'd have it logged down, all your security stuff, and then that would be pushing ports through our router, and our router's like, okay, you have permission to talk here. And then we'd have another verification on our server on the other side that would let stuff go in and out through our network. So that's where we would lock stuff down. But that's a little bit more advanced than what we cover in fundamentals. But you've read about it, and you'll read about more of it in Security Plus. So I just want you to see that would be about right here, because that'd be getting hit. So that could be here. We could have a switch right here coming off this modem, and from that switch we could be going to our router also. So this can get a lot more complex. So I'm going to try to keep it simple, stupid. So let's go back to our network. At this point right here, once we've gotten past our modem, our router, and we're at our switch, this is where we're going to put our servers, okay? So this actually does have Active Directory server icons in here. I just need to type it, right? Let me just type. Am I typing right? Microsoft. So we have database, DevOps, general icons, identifier, scrolling down. It probably would be better if I just type server. So let's do that. Let's just type server. All right. So there's a virtual server and there's a regular server here. We can use those. Let's see what else we have up here for fun. All right, here we go. Application server, database server, directory server. So some say VM, some say multi. Then we have just regular web server, Windows server. So if we had a web server, it would be right here, right? You'd be connected to that one. How you like that? Connected. Connected. And then if you want those to be arrows on both sides, you come up here and you flip an arrow on both sides. That's left, that's right. You can change the line thickness here. All kinds of fun stuff. Or if you don't like it, you can click on it and say, go away, I hate you. Everything's vector, so that's kind of nice. So if we had a web server, it'd be right there, because it needs to be hit from the outside. But we're not going to do a web server today. We're going to do what we've actually covered. So for me, I have Blade servers, but this is just going to be, just let it represent what you want. You can just put whatever name you want on something here. So you can also see this has like AWS if it's in the cloud, Amazon Web Services. You're going to be doing a class on Amazon Web Services and Azure. So you're going to do 2 of those cloud classes with Yvonne, so you're going to understand those a little bit more. And coming down, I know I'm doing a whole lot of talking here, but I just want you guys to see, use this when you do your plan of deployment. Work together. If you have something else, we have Zoom for communication. We can do breakout rooms. But I want to see you guys assign stuff and work together. I don't want to see something there, oh, I'm working on my stuff I'm missing. No. The time doing this is not time for that. Your 4 hours of homework outside of class, that's where you're doing that. So let's put a server directory. I know that there's a Active Directory one that I like to use, but I used it on the other one. I'm sure if I just typed Active Directory. I'm trying to avoid it because I know I'm not going to spell it right. There it is right there. So we're going to steal this one that says VM, but we're not going to call it a VM. We'll just drag this over here. All right. There we go. So we have Active Directory. Now, when we're setting up an Active Directory, here's where we can start planning stuff out. So we know to activate our machines, right? To activate them, we need internet, right? I'll put this down here really quick. So as we're coming in here, I know I need internet from this. So I can take this, drag it. If I hold Shift, we're right there. And I'm going to put that both directions, our communications both directions. For me, that's what that's going to represent. So for this, we know we need a switch. So this is going to be our external switch, right? And that's how we're going to get stuff to our virtual machines. Now that's annoying. So I'll take this up to here instead. Oh. You suck. You suck. Let's try this again. There we go. And again, however you guys want to draw this up, draw it up. So we have an Active Directory. For our machines to actually authenticate, we need external, we need internet for them to activate, right? So we also need two Active Directory. We need two domain controllers to equal an Active Directory, right? So I'm going to throw something else in here now. So what do we want to call this? Let me go to shapes really quick. Show me just regular shapes, you. All right, we're just going to call this domain then, since I don't want a dark one. Text box. There we go. I will put the AM on there since we're familiar with AM right now. AM domain. So I don't know what just happened there. AM domain.local. We're familiar with that. AM domain local would be a minimum of two domain controllers, right? And now that I have those highlighted, I can move them down. See how this will expand as I go further down? So those all equal. Those two are the actual domain controller, right? I'm having fun with it now. So I would I'm just going to put a block. Well, I don't want text blocks. Just give me a box. I just want a box. Sure, you work. Oh no, it's going on top of it. How scary that is. That's okay. There we go. Domain. All right. So the domain is amdomain.local, and it consists of two Active Directory computers, right? So domain controllers. Two domain controllers are equal in that domain. If like we would refer to this probably as, we're familiar as DC1. DC2, correct? This is our bare minimum. You can have more. You can have more redundancy than that, but this is our bare minimum. So what else is going to be on those computers? When we have DC1, whereas we know it's got Active Directory domain services because we have DC on it. So what's another thing that it's going to put on those computers that we need for this to function from the beginning? RODCs for a remote location that we're not managing. We'll get to that in a little bit. Yeah, read-only domain controller would be for a satellite office or something where we don't have IT staff to manage that location. So it's kind of like a CD. Once you write it, it's read-only. So one of the requirements for a domain controller is, did that just delete it? DNS, right? Can I hit enter in front of that? No. All right. It's acting stupid. All right. Well, I'll just put them side by side. So DC1, we have a DNS. So it has to have a DNS for this to function properly. Now remember, when we set up DC2, we put DC1's IP address on there, right? So the IP address of DC1 was our primary DNS on DC2 and everything else that we connected to after that. Our secondary DNS when we were setting up our networks was DC2. So if DC1 went offline, DC2 was still up and they can still communicate and authenticate users through it. So something we might want to put in here is what's on it. So I'm going to grab another text box, since this doesn't let me type how I want to underneath this. I'm just going to put it underneath it right here for now. So I'm going to put the information for that computer. So we want to pick a schema, or not a schema, but we want to pick what are we using for our networks? What are we authorized to hand out? So usually when you're working on a pre-manufactured network, stuff's already going to be used, right? There's already going to be things with static IP addresses, and there's going to be stuff you just can't use because it's already being used. There's already going to be a DHCP setup and stuff. We have the benefit you're starting a clean network, so you don't have that issue. Now, you're going to put your stuff on a private network so you don't kill my network out here on accident, because there is a live network here that affects Yvonne's class. So what we did in our class for DC1 is we did its IP address. I probably should do these all capitals, but IP address, probably 2 Ds too, right? I can't spell, you know what I mean. So we did 10.10.10.1. So in our notes, you don't have to do this exactly how I'm doing it right now. I'm just an example trying to explain what we did and why we did it. So when you go to build yours, you'll have kind of a frame of mind to start off. So we physically did it. Now I'm just showing you in here. All right, and let me put another one here. I'm going to cheat. Someone tell me what's the class of that. So I can put stuff over here. Class A. All right. I'm going to delete what's in this one because I just cheated. I just copied it. So we're going to use a class A. And we also did a class A subnet mask, right? So and again, I'm not the best at drawing stuff up and that, but hopefully this is helping a little bit. And then our subnet mask, we also did a class A, correct? So subnet mask. And if you don't remember what that looks like, that's 255.0.0.0. And class A is 10.x.x.x, which relates to that because you can only put your numbers in here, and the first one always has to be a 10. Also, the class A, the first one's locked, and we have access to the last 3 octets. So I'm just putting this down as information, so as you're building your network, like this is available. Now, I'm kind of creating a key here. So I'm going to say our gateway is 192.168.0.1. Now, that's not within that subnet mask, right? So that's why we have to use NAT. So if we're trying to get internet to the rest of our computers down here, we're going to have to navigate network address translation and move that to our network so people can get it. That's where the Nat server would come in. I missed an E in gate. Where are you? Oh, I did. It's Gateway. It's the Great Gatsby. Thank you. Yes, that's exactly. So our NAT's going to be our gateway that we're going to set on this side is going to be whatever the IP address is on our server with NAT. So it's going to have 2 network cards. The network card coming from here, which is going to be this 192 network, this class C network on this side, and it's going to translate it over to our class A network on this side. So at your home, your gateway probably is a 192.168.0.1 or .2.1, but it's probably a class C network with a 192.168.something.1 for your gateway, because that's usually the default on most Soho networks. So that's why I'm putting that for up here. So what I could do is take that 192.168, our external switch, our router right here, and the router, this is pretty much our gateway on this side is going to be the router, or the modem is. So we would put 192.168.0.1. And that's also what you would type into your web browser to probably configure that too. So on mine, it's exactly like that. If I type that into a web browser, I will get the management tools for my modem. And then if I type in the address for my router, I'll get the management tools for my router. And same for a managed switch, I can get into that, or I can use terminal and terminal into that also. But right now, what we're thinking about is our network as we're building this. Yeah, you can change it. You can change it. Because, yes, people will know what it is. So, as our DC1, DC2, is there anything we need to think about? Maybe stuff we need to turn on those? And I'm going to put for our DC2 that we probably we're let me just put in front of this. Now I can actually do enters. DC1 info. I like that I can just move stuff around too. It makes this a little bit more organic. All right. So, and I'm just doing this how we pretty much did our previous stuff, or the stuff you're still working on. I'm just gonna put that right there for now. There's better arrangement tools up here where it can make stuff look really nice. So we know we did 10.10.10.1 on DC1. We did 10.10.10.2. So over here, I'm going to say, or at least, yeah. So for me, I know if it says 10.10.10, it's a server. And for workstations, I would do so I'm using WS for workstations. So workstations 10.10.1.x. X is where we would actually put a designator, static IP if we want to. But usually, this is going to be our DHCP server is going to hand out our workstation IP addresses. So we don't have to worry about doing those static. Servers are going to be static. But when we see that on the network, if we're doing a scan, we know, okay, I don't really care about the workstations right now. I'm looking for server stuff. So I'm going to filter out anything that's not 10.10.10. So if you saw on the advanced IP, I could pick the range that it's scanning. And I'm just looking for, hey, am I seeing anything goofy? Is this server not showing up on the network? All right, there's probably something wrong with this network card. That's why I can't talk to it. Let's go over to it manually and do it. Because if you're working in a data center, you can have 10,000 servers in there, and you're going to have to figure out which one of those physical servers is breaking on you. Because it might not be the physical server. It might just be a VM in that server, and you're going to need to figure out the best way to get to it and maintain it and maybe just reset it. So we have our basic information for DC1, DC2. We know we're going to set static IP addresses of 10.10.10.1 on 1 and .2 on 2. We also have a little bit different on our DNS, right? So we set up the primary DNS equaled DC1, right? 10.10.10.1, where over here, the primary DNS was itself, right? One two seven. 0.0.0.1. That's what we did on there. Now our secondary we were flipping these, right? So primary, preferred, depends if you're on Linux or Windows. Yeah, preferred, the first one, and then the second one. So our second one was our 10.10.10.2, which was this guy here. So in case his DNS broke, it's still working on that one. And we can add many, many more of these in the advanced settings, but we don't need to cover that right now. It's just we're going basics right now. So and same over here is we did our secondary as the opposite. Now it probably flipped it around on its own and put itself on the primary and secondary after we did it. Before initial setup, we had to do this so we can actually join the domain, communicate with DC1, and become the secondary domain controller. .127.0.0.1 is local loopback. So that's how we set those guys up. And we can all even put over here. Now for everyone else, primary DNS, we did 10.10.10.1, and secondary we did why do I keep doing that? .2. And I'm just marking stuff down as I go over here. So if I'm setting up my workstations and stuff, I can come look at this document since I shared it all with you guys, right? You guys can just pull up like, oh, okay, or that changed. So as you're all adding stuff and working on your computer or your project or your job, you can be adding stuff as everyone else is adding stuff without interfering. So in all the stuff, we can also just right click, and I could have just done add notes, and I could add the notes right here too. So when you moused over it, I'm not sure if control copy, I'm not sure if copy is going to work on this, but let me see, add notes, and I could go like that, right? Oops. There we go. Yep. And then you can just click on the comment right there, and it gives me the information. So you can see, I mean, this is a free tool. It's powerful though, right? This is fairly powerful if you're trying to plan stuff and visualize what you're doing. Like, oh, I forgot what that was. Let me put it in there so I can look at it later. So I have two ways of looking at it. I put a little box here, or I can just do this and save space and have that right here. I can also put links in here. I can say, here's a picture of the location of where this server is. So I can go many, many layers into this. So that's why I'm showing you guys this tool for planning it, because your first thing is going to be plan the deployment. So probably tomorrow, once we go over the basics, I'm going to hand over for you guys to start working on this project. I'm going to give you more than the 4 days. Now, I know some of you guys still need to work on some other stuff, so just we'll see where everyone's at. I know AM class is ahead of PM class, and we're going to try to figure out how you guys are going to communicate with each other. So we've got our basics. We have our domain controllers. Now there's a few other things that we did, right? So we had, I wonder if this has Wasus. Probably doesn't. No. We'll just look under server. Well, it's a server cluster. All right, we're just going to do a database. Come over here, database. Yeah, you're going to need a DHCP because you don't want to set static IP addresses on every single workstation. Yeah, it's because you're on view only. And I'll change that shortly so you guys can play around in here once I'm done. So the next one I'm going to add to this. Now remember, these are all connecting to this backbone right here. So I'll just draw a simple little line right there probably eventually. Yeah, eventually I'll draw a line. So these are connecting to here. So this side, this is going to be our 192.168 network right here. This backbone. Down here is going to be where all of our network, our personal network, our 10, our class A, this is going to be where all that stuff is, where our workstations, our printers, everything's going to live over here. Yeah, you guys can try that if you guys want to. They can be location B and you guys can be location A. You guys can communicate and figure out how you guys want to make those talk to each other. Again, what I'm going to be grading you guys on this is you turn in what you did, what you attempted to do, what you planned to do, and what went wrong. So I expect you to run into lots of problems. I expect you, oh, let's redo it. We did something wrong. We broke it. But that's the whole point of the learning experience. I don't want you to be afraid of messing up. I just want you to document what you're doing. Yeah. Don't be afraid to try stuff, but document what you're doing. It's like, hey, I did this and I broke it. Does someone else want to look at it? Don't be, oh, I'm going to talk to Sean and ask him. No, work as a team. Work as a team. You guys have all different levels of experience in this class, but this is experience right here. This is learning how to troubleshoot. You've done it once, but you did it kind of parrot, right? You did copy. You did what I told you to do. You might not have understood it, but you might have understood a little bit better than what you did, and you certify. But now you got free reigns. You're going to see if you don't do something, it's not going to work. So I'm going to call this one right here our WDS. Why would I want to do WDS next? What's this going to help me with? Well, my whole thing is I'm building a network, right? So what's going to help me deploy more servers? WDS is going to let me deploy with Pixie Boot, right? So all I have to do is turn an empty computer on, hit F12, and it's going to start booting into installing operating systems on that computer. So Windows Deployment Services is definitely going to make that job easier on me. I don't want to go one computer at a time and put a USB in it or a CD in it and install it manually, right? I say I have like 200 computers I need to set up. I don't want to do that. So the next logical step for me is I want to make my job easier. I have DC1, I have DC2, okay, I have Active Directory. Let's put a WDS up so I don't have to worry about manually finding stuff and then installing it from a media each time. I can also capture a system too, so I didn't go over that, but we can turn on system capture. I'll probably make an extra video over the weekend and show you some of the stuff we didn't cover, just so you can go and watch it and see what it does. So what you can do is, you know how we did F3, Control Shift F3, we went into generalize. So if we generalize a system and preset it up like we were doing before, we can capture it like that with WDS and distribute it to all the other computers already set up. Well, we're not doing parent with this, but it does save time because you're not installing software on all the other computers. It's already pre-built the image. You already know the drivers are already there. So some computers, when you set them up, they're not going to have all the drivers for all the hardware that's on them. So you can go F3. You can install all the drivers that needs, and then you can have that image pre-made for that version of those computers, like Dell 6600s or something. So you'll have all your drivers ready to go, all your sets pre-set up. You can have your virtual memory pre-set up, and then capture it in that state and deploy it like it was a brand new installation. So a parent image is like referring to the main one. This is actually just like copying and cloning. So you're cloning a system pretty much. So we're not going to save space doing it this way, but we are going to save time. So there's other ways we can do that. We can use group policies to push out that. We can use the drivers folder in WDS for it to save drivers that way. But it's all dependent what's going to take up more bandwidth on your network. You're building a completely brand new network that's going to be based on the information I give you. So you're going to use the tools that you learned, but you guys are going to be working together to build it. So, I mean, there's a lot of you. There's like 10 of you in here. So it's going to be getting everyone working, making sure everybody's working. Like, all right, do this, do that. Remember again that we can manage, we can do all the user accounts and organizational units from a workstation, right? You can create, guys, a workstation. If you saw, I have workstation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I have all those pre-made. So all we have to do is, once you have your DNS created, is join that server. And the thing I also have for you guys is that Blocks of Knowledge server is yours. I'm going to reset that blocks of knowledge server. It is a real server operating system. It is not an evaluation. So you can actually do the activate. You can use that code I gave you earlier that'll activate to the host being activated in Hyper-V. And everything that's running on the network, you guys can use those workstations, join your domain, and manage everything from your workstations. So you're going to have full reign of my server to do whatever you need to try and make this work. You guys have done stuff in VMware, and you've done stuff in Hyper-V. Both of those are really good things to put on your resume. You have virtualization experience. It might not be years of experience, but you've got experience with it. You know how to navigate a little bit. So, no, it won't cause any problems if it's expired. The only thing it'll cause problems with is if you're trying to run virtual machines on your home computer. So it doesn't even need to be activated because I have an actual activated ESXi version at my house, and that's what you guys are. You're just using it like a remote desktop pretty much to connect to it. So that was the cool thing I figured out. Now, VMware doesn't know that they can do this. I've asked them. They don't know that this is capable of what I'm doing. And I'm not going to tell them. Because then they'll probably make it so I can't do this. Because it's really nice that I can watch what all you guys are doing at the same time remotely. Now, again, before, when we were at the school, we were only using a Hyper-V server, and I had to kick you out of your Hyper-V for me to show you how to fix something on it, and I had to share that and do a projector on the whiteboard. This is much easier for me just to go hop on there and do it as you're looking at your screen and explain to you what's going on, right? So, I mean, a few things that came out of COVID is I learned a better way to do my job. So, back to our WDS. Our WDS is how we're going to distribute stuff. Why did I do an arrow there? Control Z gets rid of stuff too. So our WDS, I'm just going to right click on this and I'm going to use. Okay, maybe it doesn't like me. Hey, you. There we go. Add notes. So I'm going to say I'm not going to type. I'm going to just know what it is. So I'm going to give WDS 10.10.10.3 because I'm just going in order. Primary. So I'm just going to say DNS1. I'm just going to start simplifying this. Equal 10.10.10.1. And the next one, DNS2. Oh, wow, I'm not consistent with anything. 10.10.10.2. So I'll just put down what I know I'm going to have to put on that to make that work correctly. So the first thing we always check was network, right? We turn it on. We have the checklist to IT by. Network. Time. Am I activated? Is my updates how I want them to be? So we don't have a WASU server yet, but that'll be our next thing, right? The reason why the WASU server isn't my third step, my third deployment, because I want to deploy it with WDS. I want to make my job easier. It is best practices to put these things that are going to have a lot of work as their own server. So if you have the ability to do Hyper-V and you can do unlimited Hyper-Vs, why not just make these services be their own server? Because if that service or that server goes down, you're only losing one service instead of multiple services, right? So it's kind of a redundant. Now, if the whole server that runs the Hyper-V goes down, that would take out a lot of stuff, but that's very rare that an entire server goes down. What usually happens is something in an operating system crashes and you have to restart that server. It's much easier to restart a server that's in Hyper-V than it is to restart a physical server. Yeah, too many will degrade. But we're also talking about, I mean, you know what we're doing here is a lot more than what someone would do in the field. Yep, you would make it its own. So, I mean, you see, we have what? 20-some, 30-some computers running in a virtual machine at the same time, and our virtual machines has virtual machines running in the virtual machines. Like 5 more virtual machines running inside of that virtual machine. That's asking a lot, right? Yeah, Inception. We're asking a lot of that server. Now, it took me forever to figure out how to set that stuff up. Like, I had a week to learn. So, and that's why I want to teach you guys how to teach yourself. And I think a lot of you've gotten from day one, you were kind of iffy. And now, I mean, you guys aren't asking that many questions, but I see you're getting your work done. You're doing everything. I think your brain has flipped over to teaching yourself a lot, or you're looking for errors or what did you do wrong and you're correcting them before you're asking me. I might be wrong on that, but let me know if you feel the same way about that. I do stuff wrong all the time and I got to go back and check just like yesterday. Just don't be afraid to do stuff wrong. Just always think, what did I what might I have forgot? And also, just don't be afraid to ask for help, though. Don't be afraid to. But yeah, if you want to figure out yourself, let me know. But also take into account how much time you have left in the course. Like if it's at the near the end of the course and you have nothing done, start asking for help. Yeah, and what you'll find out is people when we're doing this, usually in most classes, a lot of people, everyone just starts making their own Active Directory and their own domain, and it's like, you're working as a team. So all of these equal one. Now you can do more than one Active Directory, but just make sure you're naming them. DC1, DC2, DC3, DC4, or just lets you know, give it a logical name that you can break it down. Maybe if one Active Directory has taken on way too much work, you want to do a failover Active Directory so that it can load balance. Now, we were teaching 410, 411, and 412 for server, but Microsoft got rid of those certifications altogether, and there are no server certifications except fundamentals right now. And even that's gone. So, all right. So I'm going to go back to this. So WDS has WDS on it, so I named it WDS. So honestly, now WDS, if you're not deploying stuff all the time, we could put Wasus on WDS. But me personally, I'm just going to separate each feature because I know we're using virtual machines. So I'm going to just give Wasus its own server because if you have data center, you have unlimited Hyper-Vs you can put on it anyway of itself. So you're not paying for another license. So I like the redundancy. And I like the fact that I can do a checkpoint on a Hyper-V and back it up. You know what I mean? It makes it so much easier if something goes wrong later. I can just revert to that checkpoint and it's working again. Like before in updates, checkpoint them, back up those checkpoints, and if it breaks, revert. Yeah, so Wasus will do .4. And again, you can come up with whatever scheme you guys want that makes it easy for you to remember who is what and make like your key on your legend. So for me, I was just simplifying it. The 10.10.10 is servers, 10.10.1 are workstations. Now we can say like 10.10.2 could be printers, 10.10.3 scanners, anything that has an IP address, we can designate a key. And now we can say like the 10.10, the second octet, maybe that's the location. Maybe it would be 10.1 for building 1, 10.2 for building 2, or 10.10 for building 1, 10.20 for building 2. Yes, I'm recording this right now, and I will upload this whole thing on the YouTube for us. I know it's getting kind of long here. We're at 10:15. Hopefully, I'm not putting you to sleep, and we're answering some questions here. So we know this one. We're just going to put WDS. I mean, the rest of that one's self-explanatory. You set up WDS, watch the WDS video. Then we want Wasus, right? So I'm going to cheat. I'm Control-C that, Control-V that. Arrow key over. And I'm just going to call this Wasus. And I'm going to change this right here. So my Wasus, we know we were going to do .4. Hey, look at that. I don't need to change anything else in there. Look at that time saver. So Wasus is going to handle our updates. Wasus also has to have an external switch, right? So for all of these to activate, we need an external switch to talk to this. Or internet. So NAT. So if we have NAT, then these can all have internet coming off of the computer with NAT. And NAT will give all these guys internet. The way we did it, though, is we gave this an external to that. And then most of these, we actually started off with an external, and then we killed it. We turned off the external and flipped it back to private, right? So he's going to have the external to download Windows updates, right? And then he's also going to have, let me grab it from the side here. going down to our network down here. And this guy's going to also be going down to our network down here. And all of these guys will be going down here. So our WASUS is how we update everything, and manager updates, our WDS, is how we deploy operating systems and capture them and all that fun stuff. So I keep on talking about NAT, so we probably want a NAT server too, right? Now, you guys don't know how to set up a NAT server, and I'm not going to tell you how to do it because that's the wild card in this one. But once you Google it, you'll find it. And again, before you're making changes to stuff, make a checkpoint before you do it. In case you break it, you can revert back and take one step back instead of starting all over. Because some stuff, when you do it, you can't undo it. Like if you install a domain controller and you set it up and I set it up with the wrong name for the domain. Once you deploy a domain controller and promote it, you can't undo what you just did. It'll act like it, but it's still going to keep all the information in the background and mess stuff up in the future. So they're very, very finicky. So I'm just going to throw NAT over here. Am I missing anything, guys? Look how easy that was. Now, what I can do, now that if I have a NAT server, I can get rid of that. Because if I have NAT, this guy now becomes the gateway for all of these computers. So all of these computers, the gateway for these will now be the IP address of this computer. Does that make sense? We don't have DHCP yet correctly. We need a DHCP. We can put DHCP on NAT though, right? Since Nat is only handling network stuff, we might as well give him 2 jobs. Correct. So, Nat is pretty much acting like a router. So, it's going to connect our 169 network to our 10 network right here, to our Class C to our Class A. So, this will have one network card going over here, and it's going to route that with its other network card over here. So, anything that's on our domain, once you domain join, it's not going to give you internet if you're not domain joined. It's going to give everybody internet right here. So this is kind of why I like doing it this way, because now you can kind of see the flow as you change stuff. You can update this, say, oh, this actually works like this. We don't need a firewall on this side. Once we have firewalls up here, we probably want a firewall right here. And the firewall is probably built into this. So I could type. Now, all your computers have firewalls on them already, but you probably want a hardware firewall, right? So we probably have a firewall sitting somewhere between, like, right here. So I'd move him down a little bit, move him like right there. But a lot of times the firewalls are built into your routers, like a Sonic firewall from Dell. See how that line moves with it? That's kind of cool. I'm using this right here. This is Lucid Charts. I sent the link earlier. I can send it again too. I think it's only 2 of you are in here. Only 2 of you are in here. Oh, I guess I could have just clicked on that, huh? There you go. If you missed it earlier. All right. So you can see at the top, I can see everybody who's connected to it. So later I can flip that and let you guys play around with this. So now that I've got all that, I'm going to break this and just make this easier really quick here. So this is just representing these guys are connected to each other. You can connect servers to each other directly from their net cards, or we can put a switch on them. But they can go either way. And then this is just going to be pointing to this, that it's talking to those guys. Just know this is just representing these are networked to each other. So going down, since these are all networked to each other, I'm just going to cheat. Maybe not. So we would have another switch over here. We're going to call this our private switch, though. I didn't want to do it because it puts it up there. So we have our external switch. So technically, Nat could handle all this, right? This could literally just be like this, and our network would work. But what we usually do, we need redundancy, right? So we would connect these guys to this. And this isn't the pretty way to do it. I'm just, it's just a representation. That's why I put boxes there on the other one. So instead of arrows, you can go up here and you can change this to like boxes, see? And that's what I did before. Just so that represented like an RJ45 connection right there. I don't know why that rotated. Why is that rotating? That's weird. All right, whatever. Well, when you first install them, they need internet. So what this is saying is if you have NAT set up, that will give internet to everybody. If we don't have NAT set up, then you're going to have a external when you turn these on so that these get internet. And then you're going to want to flip them off of the external so that they're not doing DHCP on my network out here. It gets complicated a little bit. And I can flip you guys over to a private network on the VMware also, so that you're not on the same one as everything else out here. So again, and then all this stuff right here is also flipping over to here. Probably not pretty like that. Can I just grab that? There we go. And that's just representing that those are connected to that external switch. That's all that's doing. Think of those RJ45s right there. And this is connecting here. And these servers can't actually be connected to each other, but you can set up your own server network, like another virtual switch. Let's just say it's a private server network right here if you want. Maybe this is the internal on the host computer. If you're doing these all on the one server on one host, maybe this is your internal. Maybe your host is like we did it, where our host has the management software on it, but nothing else, and Hyper-V, and then it's connected to the private network of these, and then these also have an internal network, and then these have an external switch out here that not external, but the private switch where it's talking to our workstations and everything that depend on those to work. So I'm just going to call this private. And again, this is just an example. You don't have to do this how I'm doing it. You have free reigns to say, hey, I would do it this way. Go ahead. Practice. I'm just giving a way this could work. A way. You don't have to copy what I'm doing here for your project. I'm just giving you an example. There's 1,000 ways to accomplish the same thing. So we have DC1, DC2, bare minimum, 2 domain controllers for a domain. We have WDS, which is how we're going to deploy to all of our network here. We have WASUS, which is going to let us update all of our operating systems on our network. Make sure you have enough storage on the hard drives you create. Remember, you only have so much resources on my network, right? So if I pull this over, this is what you have to work with, right? Right now, you have 3 terabyte. Now, if you guys are completely done with your work, you've turned everything in, I'll go grade everything tonight, we can delete your host computers here. Now, if you noticed, I have workstations down here. And remember, you have the performance monitor, right, too? So your performance monitor should tell you, hey, you might want a little bit more RAM, you ran out. Or maybe you need more processors because you're slowing down. Your processor can't keep up. So those are things to look at, some tools to look at. Hey, this ain't working, this keeps crashing. See if you have enough resources. See if that performance monitor is telling you, hey, alert. We don't use TechHouse X3. That's Yvonne's server. But TechHouse X3 has less storage than us, but more RAM, more processors than us. So I have these pre-made workstations here for everybody. So this is what the previous class set up when they did it. Their group policies show this on Windows 10 on your lock screen. Remember, I do food porn. So they said, never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. So when you go to lock, they had fun with their GPOs, right? Testy McTest fans. They were having fun with this, right? So I don't know what their password they used on that. But I know I had one on here. Now that server's not turned on right now, so they also named theirs Hogwarts. I have to turn it on. Now you see right here it says we cannot sign you in with the credentials because your domain isn't available. That's because I don't have their domain turned on right now. So if I exit this really quick, well, Control Alt. Let me minimize that a second here, and I just want to show you what they did really quick. I need blocks of knowledge right here. That is the one that they set up. Now, before they did it, I did a snapshot of it, so I can revert it back to before they started working on it. Which is what's going to happen is I'm going to revert it and let you guys do it. And I'm going to save theirs right here. I'm going to do a snapshot before I do it. And then you guys are going to have yours. So I can have examples in the future. So once that turns on, it should be good. So let me double check here. We've got 2 network cards on here. So they used blocks of knowledge as NAT, and then routed blocks of knowledge into the Hyper-V inside of blocks of knowledge. So everything on blocks of knowledge, their whole network was built inside of this. So in the Hyper-V in it, they built everything inside. So one of those network cards is dedicated to the external for their Hyper-V, and one's dedicated to the host. So they're not on the same virtual NIC. So that's why it's taking a little bit to turn on here. I think we covered most. Do you guys want me to do a video on organizational units and user accounts and moving them around and stuff? So I know you guys covered that a little bit in You Certify, doing organizational units and stuff and group policies. Okay. Well, as that's loading, let's not. So the other thing that we want to take into account here is what I pretty much just showed you over there, the workstations, right? The whole point of this is to have people do work, right? This is all administrative stuff right now. No one can do their job. Let's see. What's he going to give me if I just type work? Yeah, I'll just type desktop. Oh, it's one word. My bad. Yeah, there's some workstations right there, though. Here we go. Here's some workstations. Boom. Computer. Control C. Control V. So things to take into account. We said we're going to put NAT and DHCP on here. You can also just put NAT on its own or whatever. You guys are going to do research. I'm not telling you how to do NAT. That's your wild card. DHCP, though, what's something we need to think about in our DHCP, guys? Does that help? Yeah. How many IP addresses you need? So how big of a scope do you want to use? The range. Yeah. So it's going to say, you know, like 10.10.1.1 through, maybe you want to do 10.1. Well, 10.10.1.254, right? Yeah, like what you got right there. Yep. That's a lot. That's a lot for workstations. Now, there's split scopes, so if you need to add more, you can add another scope to this. So there's deeper we can go in, but you know, ours is to say, hey, can you build the foundational network to make a bigger network? Once you have the basics, you can expand this quick, right? We have WDS, we have Wasus. We can just start adding stuff. You can have, hey, go deploy 2 more servers. I want you to name it DC5, 6, 7. And based on that, if we have the naming scheme like this, we also know it's going to be .5, .6, .7. Everything else is going to be the same. It's going to deploy fast. When we're using WDS to deploy it, it's also going to automatically domain join it. And we can go in there, change the name, and then Wasus should automatically have the updates for it. So it doesn't need to pull updates from the internet. Also, if those servers are connected to each other directly and not on the network over here, it's going to be a lot faster for it to update because there's not going to be any traffic on that network that's being used up by our users on this end, because that network doesn't need internet, right? So if this guy's giving internet to here, that's going through him to here to here. But if this guy's pushing updates, he don't need to go through him, does he? He's like, here's an update for you, one for you, one for you, one for you. Now, if we didn't have Wasus, now everyone's going to be pulling updates from here. Our modem's not going to like that, is it? We have 200 and some workstations pulling updates at the same time every second Tuesday of the month. No one's going to get work done, especially if you're using cloud services. There's the downfall of cloud. If you have crappy internet, you have no cloud services, right? No internet, no work gets done. That sucks. Everyone here's got 0365 and they're using the web version of it. Poof, gone. Sucks to be you. So yeah, the scope, our Wasus, remember you get that from the install.wim and from the boot.wim. You need to have those. If you want, I'd put a Windows 10 one in there also, deploy Windows 10. Well, on WDS, sorry, I was talking about the wrong thing. I'm flipping. But yeah, Wasus is your updates. Only pull the updates for the operating systems you need. Right now we're using 2019, and you're going to be using Windows 10 20H2 probably. So those are the only 2 that you need to actually pull updates for. Now, if you have Office down here, you can also pull updates for Office, so it updates Office on the computers. Once you set these up, they're pretty much just fire and forget once you got everything set up. The biggest thing for all you guys to be working on is going to be the organizational units, how you're going to organize people, and how you're going to set it up. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you guys are going to start tomorrow. So we're at 10:30. No, we're doing good. We're doing good. So I'm going to get out of this. I'm going to F11 out of that really quick. Minimize that. Actually, I don't need to minimize that. What I needed was right there. I'm special, remember? All right. So the whole point of this, the let's build a network, that's what we're talking about right now. There's nothing for you to turn in right now. Now, I would suggest just go back and take some notes and say, hey, do I understand this? Or if you have questions right now, ask them. So here's what you're going to start. Build an IT school infrastructure day 1. I talked about this on day 1. People are like, oh, crap, that's a lot to do. So first rule is document everything. When you guys are working on this, you are documenting everything you do. We had a meeting. We did this. We talked about that. So-and-so worked on this. I want you to document everything. I want everything you did. Just write it down as you do it. Take the time. Do it. This will help you later if you messed up. Just like I messed up yesterday. I went back and watched the video, and I saw, oh, AD, what the hell? after the death of Christ? No, that's not what I need. I want an AM. So we've got come up with a plan for the following and how you will communicate and evenly distribute jobs. No one will be sitting around doing nothing, or they will not get participation for the day. How you like that? You have 2 locations in different cities. Each location teaches 10 different courses with a maximum capacity of 24 students per class. What is my wild card in there? What do you think my wild card is right there, guys? That you might want to think about. I say there's 24 students per class. What classes do we have with our classes, guys? 2 classes, AM and PM, right? Day and night. Think about that one. So again, it's going to be the same classes you are doing, just so you can relate. I had A plus, Network plus, Security plus, Linux plus, Cloud plus, Server plus, Windows operating system fundamentals, Windows Server fundamentals, test prep, career development. So those are the ones that you're going to have to, do organizational units, figure out how you're going to organize users and move them into each one of those classes. You have full staff to think about, also front office admin, instructor accounts, and so on. So it's not just the students you're talking about. We're talking about the whole corporation, the whole school, every employee that there could be. Maybe you want to do some research. Maybe you want to call Cybertex and say, hey, what different positions do you guys have there? So that's what VPNs are for. They still got to connect to your network. That's where your Nat server might come into play with a VPN connection. Your task, no, you're tasked to try and build the Windows domain to handle and organize everyday tasks and make management as easy as possible. Change can come daily to the plan for this project. Plan it out day 1 before you start building it, i.e., diagram it, right? Everyone must keep track of what they did for the day and turn in the progress of the day and what they contributed. I think I'm being very clear on that from the very beginning, what I've been saying so far. And at the bottom, I want everything. What you did, you might not have accomplished anything. You might have started over and over and over and over. Document it. Document it. Kind of like work. If you don't document what you did, why should I pay you? Right? Nothing might have got accomplished, but maybe you were troubleshooting all day and you couldn't figure it out. But at least you can go back. All right, I tried this, I tried this, I tried this, I tried this. So tomorrow I'm going to pick off and try something new. It's benefit to you. And I have a really bad memory, so I used to have good memory, but all these medications really screw up my memory. So that's day 1. So day 1 is just come up with a plan like what I just did, diagram. Put a diagram together. All right. So I'm going to flip to the next day right here. Everything up here is the same. Now it says, today you must start building the network. And it's probably the wrong there. It's me. It's probably the wrong one. There are signs that the customer might be sending last minute changes. Document everyone's job, take notes, and submit everything you did today. Again, everyone must keep track of what they did for the day and turn in the progress of the day and what they contributed. So I want to see what happened or what didn't happen. So next day, day 3. Today you must finish the domain controllers and get everyone's domain joined. Get everyone domain joined and work on their own workstations. It means you're not all logging into a server. You're working from your workstations to manage other services, GPO, organization units, and everything else you are using for this project. Document everyone's job, take notes, and submit everything you did today. Everyone must keep track of what they did for the day and turn in the progress of the day and what they contributed. And day 4. Today you must finish. Add your users, workstations, and explain your thoughts on how you organize them and what you hoped to accomplish. Write up a full summary on everything you attempted, and everyone on the team will submit a copy of team notes. Document everyone's job, take notes, and submit everything you did today. Everyone must keep track of what they did for the day and turn in progress of the day and what they contributed. So it's the same thing every day, right? So now that I've bored you reading the same thing, you kind of know. Now, I will give you more, since we have more than 4 days to work on this. You guys pretty much have 2 weeks, right? So if you guys feel like you want to work on it more, improve it, redo it again, I'm cool with that. I want you to get as much hands-on as possible on this. Like, oh, we did it this way, but maybe we should have done it that way. And then you guys go wipe it and do it again. And it'll probably be faster the second time. It's like, okay, let's do this, and you're done. But it's just to try to get that process, because a lot of this is freehand. Even though you're stuck with the software, there's so many different ways you can accomplish the same tasks. You can break it up location. You can break it up with organizational units. All kinds of stuff. So let me show you here. Do you want me to end this video now and start a new one for the organizational units and users, or just keep it going on this one? Yeah, we can do a 10-minute break. All right. I'll stop recording this right now and see if I can get that going. Let's take our 20 so you can eat. Sound fair?